Hi, everyone. This is Peyton Stilling back with another episode of The Power of Storytelling. And today we have Amanda Janay. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me.
Amanda graduated from Northwestern State University with a degree in accounting. She then went on to get her master's at LSU and is currently the financial controller for FlashParking. So I would love to get started from the beginning. What was your life growing up? What was your childhood like? Kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, it was, I guess, maybe a little bit atypical. My parents were divorced when I was really young, and my mom, my brother, and I moved in with my grandparents. So I kind of had a hodgepodge of family raising me. My dad was still around, but I kind of had two dads and two moms, and so it was, just a little bit different, but had a lot of wisdom backing me throughout the years. High school, elementary school, high school, all in the same very small town. Was really ready to get out of the small town. Kind of had my sights set on an out-of-state college. Kind of from like, I don't know, maybe ninth grade, I knew that I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it. It was my parents, or my dad, he owned a tax business, and so when I was younger, probably starting in 8th or 9th grade, I helped them in the tax office, which kind of drove me to obviously the accounting side of the world.
Yeah.
But
were you good with numbers growing up? Because I'm horrible at math, so
it's funny. There's this misconception that accountants are really good at math. I took all of the math classes and excelled, reasonably, but I definitely was not top of my class in that area. I think more importantly, I'm really good at problem solving and using a 10 key. So Excel, calculators, more my thing, but doing math in my head.
Yeah, because my first impression when I think of accounting is I would be horrible at that just because my strong suit is not math, not numbers, but I guess you don't have to
Spreadsheets. Yeah.
Spreadsheets. All right.
Yeah.
And what kind of activities were you involved in high school?
I was in track and cross country. I played basketball. I had a really great guidance counselor when I was in school. I came from a family that didn't have a lot of college background. So it wasn't a given that the next step in line would be college. But I had really great mentors within the school system, thankfully, that pushed me to submit applications and make sure that I was doing the things that were actually going to be important for applications.
Yeah.
All of the standardized testing and the honor society type programs. So I got involved in all of those to make sure I had those boxes checked when it came to college applications. But yeah, I kept pretty busy when I was in high school. Keep you out of trouble.
Yeah. Did you know what degree you wanted to do in college, or?
I did. And again, it was the family business. I didn't enjoy taxes at all, and I still admittedly don't do my own taxes. But I did really enjoy the numbers and just the methodical nature of accounting. I really liked having a checkbook and balancing it.
Yeah,
and that's not a thing anymore. But there were some business classes that you could take in high school that would kind of gear you towards that type of degree, and I loved it. It was very organized.
Yeah.
So it kind of fit my personality.
Very nice. So how did you decide on Northwestern State?
It's kind of a funny story. I tell people it was a series of bad decisions that got me there.
Yeah.
When I left to go to school, I went to Florida first, to a small private school. it wasn't necessarily known for its accounting program, but it had a really beautiful campus and it was really close to a beach. So I, didn't.
Priorities.
Yeah, when you're 18, those are the things you think about. But I was in a relationship with a guy who was in the military and at Fort Polk in Louisiana. And so after my freshman year, we were still together, and I decided that I wanted to be closer to him. So I transferred schools and finished my degree at Northwestern.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was because of the boyfriend.
Yeah, I know. It happens. But
like, what kind of insight do you have on why you picked the college you did?
I will say that it was not the greatest decision as far as moving for that reason, but it allowed me to actually pay for my college because I ended up picking a school that was much less expensive. So I was able to put myself through school instead of having the parents and the loans and everything. Yeah. So it was a huge bonus.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So going to Northwestern, it was cheaper than, you said you went in Florida?
Yeah, it was a private school, it was Flagler College, and the school in Louisiana, it was a state school, and I was able to get my out-of-state tuition waived because of my grades. Just a huge tip for people that
tuition is so expensive.
Yeah. And if you have good grades, you can actually get, a lot of places will waive your out-of-state tuition. So that helped a ton. I got a lot of pushback from my family, which, I don't discredit it. They wanted me to go to the best school possible because that just opens up more doors, going to the University of Texas versus, a small state school that I went to in Louisiana. It's very different in what you come out of with opportunities. There's so much more networking at larger schools and universities. And I didn't get that. So it probably set me back a little bit, but it was really rewarding for me to be able to, pay off my loans and do it myself. So
yeah, I think that's something that you have to take into consideration. Like, if you go somewhere where tuition might be cheaper, like you won't come out of it in debt, but then you might not have the same networking connections that you would if you were in a bigger city like Dallas or Austin,
Yeah, I mean, yes, but it kind of, to me, it proves that there are more opportunities for people that they're not seeing. You don't have to go to those big universities.
Yeah.
You can still get a great education, and you have to work a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. You have to try a little bit more than you might if you had an education from a larger school or a more accredited school, but it's still, you got to put a little more in on the front end.
You have to make
you're making those connections.
Yeah. So after college, did you get I can't talk. Did you get a job right out of college, or did you do more school, or?
No, I moved to Austin after college, and funny enough, that networking I went to, and great. I mean, I still tell people this today. You take every opportunity to network. It's uncomfortable. It's, at least from my perspective, being that like quintessential accountant, like I'm just not really great socializing, but I met some people at this event right when I moved to Austin, and it ended up being a guy that was the president of the insurance company in Austin. He actually went to Northwestern, and we had some of the same connections through, a fraternity that he went to, and it worked out. So I was able to get a job pretty quick when I moved to Austin. Very thankful for it. It wasn't really a great time to be looking for jobs like it is now.
And why'd you move to Austin?
I knew I didn't want to go back to Ohio. And I had an aunt and uncle that lived here. And so I'd come to visit. This was kind of the closest place for me for holidays. So I came to Austin to visit when I was in college, and I just loved it. It was much smaller back then, but
yeah, it's grown so much.
Yeah, it really has.
So do you think that going to college has helped with the field that you're in now?
Oh yeah. There's no way I would be where I am today without my degree, for sure. I'm trying to think of when I went back to school. I went and got my MBA. It's been a few years now, but I did that while I was working. And I was the controller at the time I was taking those courses as well, which has helped immensely just
Yeah.
with, furthering my education and being able to continue to learn, especially from a management type of role. When I took my role on where I am now, I was a team of one. And so getting the MBA under my belt really helped me on the management side.
Was it hard to balance getting your master's while still working?
It was very hard. I guess from the accountant side of the world, if I could do it again, I would have stayed in school and gotten my MBA and sat for the CPA and done it all within. There's a 5-year program that you can do now at most universities. I would tell anyone that was going in that direction to do that.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder when you're working a full-time job and you have a life outside of work that's already established. But thankfully, I did it before I had a child. So I at least made that,
Yeah.
I got that right. But yeah, it was a lot of work. It was very stressful, but it's doable. It was, and it was an accelerated program too. So I think a year and a half, and I was able to get my MBA.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I made it.
Yeah. Here I am, still standing. So explain this to me, because I don't really know how this works, but do you have to be CPA? It's CPA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to be CPA certified to be an accountant, or is that part of your master's, or how does that work?
No, to sit for the CPA, I'm trying to think of how many hours you need. I think it's 150, because 120 is a 4-year degree. You need 150 hours in order to sit for your CPA. So it's a lot of accountants that are on that trajectory would just naturally get their MBA. They need the extra hours anyhow, and it works out. You've got 3 more letters behind your name. You're more prepared to take the CPA. And so a lot of younger people now are just doing a 5-year program instead of their 4-year degree. They're just adding the extra year. You do not need a CPA to be an accountant, but you need your CPA, if you want to work for one of the big 4 accounting firms, or typically auditors are typically going to sit for their CPA, tax accountants. And it just depends on what you want to do. It does give you some leverage, and it kind of just checks that box with a lot of employers. I definitely lost out on some jobs because I didn't have my CPA.
Okay.
It's proof, right? Like you go to apply for a job and they don't need to test your skills. They know that you're capable of doing it because you passed the test.
Yeah.
It's not necessary, but it helps you a lot.
Yeah. Interesting. So you you're kind of forced to go to more school.
Yeah, and I mean, truth be told, I didn't get my CPA. That was the plan, was to go get my MBA and then start studying for my CPA, and that's when my daughter came along. So I took a turn there. I still want it, and I still have this fear that, what if I can't? What if I'm, what if I forgot all this stuff? What if I'm, I don't have time, or I fail? It's always just my personal, fears getting in my way. But I've talked to a lot of people. I have a lot of really great mentors, and I've asked them the question so many times, like, what am I missing out on if I don't get my CPA? Is it going to hurt me? Like, this is the direction I want to take. Do I need to get my CPA? You get a lot of mixed reviews and feedback, but so far, I'm I've been with the same company for 5 years. I'm really happy where I am.
Yeah.
And it hasn't hindered me today. I guarantee you, if I went and looked for a job tomorrow and I was up against a candidate that did have their CPA, I'd lose the job.
Yeah.
But,
Interesting. So now, can you walk us through? So you're a financial controller, which, people that are listening might not know what that is. So can you tell us what exactly you do, and then what does a day-to-day life look like for you as a
yeah.
man?
A financial controller. So I oversee the operational side of the accounting world. So you think about paying bills, think about invoicing your customers, collecting money, anything from, I work with tax accountants. I don't file our own taxes,
Uh-huh.
but it's full cycle accounting. So cash management, accounts payable, accounts receivable, insurance, taxes. It's
So you're in charge of all of the money for the company.
Yes.
Right?
And as companies grow, smaller companies don't need as much in the way of a controller. And as you get larger, you realize that there are some things that you want to make sure that you're covered on. You want to make sure that your company is out of harm's way in regards to insurance liabilities. And that comes as you get bigger. Smaller
Yeah.
companies don't even think about that kind of stuff. You obviously, if depending on your business, you're going to invoice your customers. You have to make sure that they're paying their bills. You have to make sure you're keeping your lights on.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that is kind of under the umbrella of a controller. Again, it varies a lot depending on the size of the company.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started at Flash, I was the only person in the accounting team. We outsourced some of our AP type processes and whatnot. But fast forward 5 years and there's 15 people on the team, so it's grown significantly.
Do you manage all 15 people? Because you're senior level, right?
Yeah, it's branched out quite a bit. So I now have a VP of finance over me and a CFO over the VP of finance. So I went from managing, I think 10 people was my max.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at a more manageable level, at least for me, managing 4 people. And so it's branched out. We have a revenue manager that's now part of the team. And so she reports directly up to the VP of finance. We have an assistant controller that reports up to the VP of finance. So we've added a large number of people to manage the growing business. So it's taken a lot off me as far as having to have everyone report to me.
Very cool. And being a woman, do you ever feel like it's harder being in more of a management position?
Yes, I don't feel like it has stunted my growth necessarily. And maybe some of it's in my head, maybe not. But absolutely. There's, even the company that I work with now, I think it's amazing and I love all the people that I work with, but the upper level management is primarily made up of males.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on your personality, maybe that's intimidating. It's, as a female, that could be. We've done a decent job of breaking that up a little bit, and I have a great relationship with the people that are in the VP level positions. We actually hired our CFO as a female, which is
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see a woman at the top.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's a little bit of a barrier there. And you got to take it head on sometimes. I'm thankful for the positions that I've been able to get and hold. And again, networking really, really helps.
So I think last question, what what advice would you have to give to our younger listeners who are in high school, middle school, trying to figure out what they like and what they want to go to college for, or if they even want to go to college? Something with accounting, I feel like that's obvious. You need to go get your degree, but
Yeah. I would just say, don't let anyone tell you no. Don't let them tell you that you can't. I've, over the years, had multiple people tell me that I can't, and it makes me work harder. But sometimes that'll really just, it feels like the end of the road. Um, don't let those people get in your way. If it's, it doesn't have to be accounting, it doesn't even have to be college, but there's so many opportunities. And like myself going to Northwestern, that wouldn't be someone's first choice usually. Especially like if you're living in Austin and you're thinking about going to school, you're not thinking that you're going to go to Northwestern. It doesn't have to be the top tier. Getting any sort of education is going to take you further. Just don't let people tell you no, or that your resources are limited, or you're not smart enough, because you are. And it just takes a little bit of hard work, but it's worth it.
I think that's like a good point. Is I know when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do after high school, there was sort of a competition, like a good college versus a bad college. And like you said, any sort of education is just furthering you, and
Yeah.
you create your own opportunities. And if you want something, go get it,
Yeah. And honestly, at my age, and I don't consider myself old yet, but you get to this point in your career and what you decide to do, no one cares where you went to school. They don't care. Those questions stop at some point in your career, in your life. It might be harder in the beginning to get to where you want to go, but you have your education, you're equipped to do whatever you want to do. You might just have to work a little harder, but there will be a point where people will stop asking you where you went to school, and they'll start looking at you as like, look at this accomplished person. Look what they're doing. Look how good they are in their profession, whatever that may be.
Yeah. You're actually, at the end of the day, it's like, well, what can you bring to the table?
Yeah.
I feel like it's just getting your foot in the door. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today.
You're welcome. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I have lots of wisdom. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Peyton.
And that's a wrap.